Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hello and welcome to the HHH Racing Podcast, a special live show here on Sunday afternoon in the United States. Very happy Father's Day to everyone here in the United States. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz, and I'm very excited to have on our special, you can see my hat, Royal Ascot preview. It starts next Tuesday, and the reason why we are on at this time right now live is because we have a fantastic guest, friend of the podcast, Mr. Emmet Kennedy from the Final Furlong podcast. He'll be on here in just a minute live from Ireland to join us with many fantastic picks, I'm sure, so we can make a boatload of cash next week at Royal Ascot. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Hit that notification bell on the top right and smash that like button below the video player. We would greatly appreciate it. I know this is a little bit of an unusual time for us to go live, so you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Anchor as replays. Of course, we highly recommend if you're watching this as a replay, you do it through YouTube, because we're going to have a lot of visual on the show, including some replay analysis as well. You can also purchase our Power Pick tip sheet. Look below the video player in the description for our Power Picks tip sheet. And if you're an international viewer, we do have international Power Pick tip sheets from our fantastic expert out there in the UK, Davey Lane. So that is also a possibility. If you email me, you can get a part of our international Power Pick tip sheet, especially for those of you that are across the pond. And we have a great website which will give information about that, hhhracingpodcast.com. All right. Without further ado, Royal Ascot starts next Tuesday through Saturday. I had the pleasure of being at Ascot for the first time ever last year. It was brilliant. It was unbelievable. The weather was great. It looks like the weather's going to be great again. However, and especially if you're a U.S. punter or handicapper, we need a lot of help, because a lot of horses that you at home may not be familiar with, I've been deep diving the last several days, and really in the last, I'd say 5 to 10 years, I've really been looking into international racing a lot more to get prepared for the Breeders' Cup and some of the big races here in the States over the summer, where there's been Godolphin runners running especially. So you have to become familiar with a lot of these European-based horses, because obviously grass is their thing. They're better than us in general on the turf, although we do have one pretty darn good runner running in the Queen Anne, which we're going to talk about. But without further ado, this gentleman has become a friend of the show, a friend of mine. We're very honored to have him on. He has a fantastic podcast, which we'll talk about during the show, called the Final Furlong Podcast. He is right down the road from Ballydoyle, Mr. Aidan O'Brien. Let's bring him on, the host of the Final Furlong Podcast, live from Ireland, Mr. Emmet Kennedy. Emmet, how you doing, my friend?
How are you, Howard? I'm in good form. In good form. Ahead of the biggest week of flat racing. I'm supposed to say the biggest week is the Cheltenham Festival for National Hunt Racing. The more we watch, the more I think the biggest week is actually Royal Ascot. Am I allowed to even say that? It's fine for America because it's all flat racing there, but sold out crowds all week. Proper actual fields that have full field sizes as opposed to small fields. No odds-on favorites. I think this is going to be a big week.
Yeah, and a lot of the big guns are heading to Ascot. I mean, usually you see a lot of, obviously, high-class racing at Ascot, but it seems like this year a lot of the big guns are not skipping Ascot at all, and they're coming to Ascot, UK, and it's going to start right in the first race. Before we get into the races, let me set the table for everyone at Ascot. What we're going to do here is the first 4 races on Tuesday and Wednesday is what we're specifically going to be talking about. They are all group, or as we call graded stakes here in the United States. There are several group 1s, which we're going to focus on. And then after we discuss Tuesday and Wednesday, Emmet's going to give out some of his best bets, or some of his roughies, as they like to say over in Europe, some long shots, as it were, that he might be punting later in the week that we should all be paying attention to. Emmet, the first thing I'm going to do is just give everyone an overview of Ascot, because we've got a lot of American fans watching and listening. And of course, not everyone's familiar with Ascot. Some people only think it's once a year, which of course it's not, because they race, of course, other times during the year. But of course, the Royal Ascot meet is always in June. So let me first bring up this graphic, and I want you to talk just very quickly about what everyone sees here. This is a map of the course at Ascot, which I'm going to bring up here right now. Here's a map of the course, and I'll go a little bit bigger here so people can see. They have the flat, the straightaway, which I think everyone, you can see that pretty well there. And then they have what they call the round course, which if you can see my arrow, that's called the round course there, which obviously is more, it's not a circle, it's an oval. Talk a little bit about some of the bigger races, Emmet, where they're going to be run at, and what people should be looking for depending on which course, whether it be the straight or the round course they're running on.
Well, feature race on day one is the St. James's Palace Stakes, which is run over the mile. And it's very different to the opening race, which is the Queen Anne, although funnily enough, St. James's Palace Stakes form works out quite well on the Queen Anne. But the Queen Anne is over the straight mile. The St. James's Palace Stakes is on the round course, so you're going around the bend. That's going to be very interesting for Field of Gold. Last time he did that was in Paris Longchamp and he got beaten. So it's going to be intriguing to see how he does. He did handle the bend at the Curragh, but it's not quite as tight. Draw is a key factor there. You don't always want to be drawn low, although funnily enough in the St. James's Palace Stakes, for a jockey like Ryan Moore, being drawn low it is an advantage. The big handicap that you're going to see that day is the Ascot Stakes, raced over the 2 mile 4. Is going to be a royal runner in that race. We'll talk more about him a little bit later on. He's drawn very low. That can be an advantage. But in the mile handicaps, you're going to hear trainers say, we've got a nightmare draw. We're drawn out wide over a mile or 10 furlongs. That's where you want to be drawn. That's where the winners are coming from in those mile handicaps on the round course. For whatever reason, everyone always says, oh no, we've been screwed by the draw. That's where you're coming from for the winners. So keep an eye on that. In terms of the straight mile track and the 10 furlongs for the draw biases, 6 to 5 and pick 'em. Just throw your coins into the air and see what happens. Look at the Coventry over the 6 furlongs on day one, the juvenile race, which is the second race. They've come from all over the track. Same thing in the King Stand. Kind of want to be drawn a little bit higher in that race, but it's going to be more about pace. And just one final note in terms of pace in this race. You're often going to hear people talk about Jamie Spencer and Holly Doyle, hold-up jockeys, that you want to be with them, particularly on the straight course. And if you look into the bare facts, Jamie Spencer's record at Royal Ascot is phenomenal. And part of the reason for that is he just has balls of steel. He just knows exactly how to time a run. Sometimes it's very frustrating following him on the all-weather or the lower grade races where he comes with that stylish late run and doesn't quite get there. But at Ascot, he times it brilliantly. The thing that's interesting, though, Howard, over the last 2 years, they changed the irrigation a little bit. And I wonder if that's going to have an impact because the pace seems to be holding up. It certainly held up in the Queen Anne last year. It held up in a couple of the handicaps as well. Now, it's not enough evidence to tell you that this is a new thing that you should be going for, but it's just something to bear in mind when we're looking at this first race, the Queen Anne, because I think a lot of people are going to be thinking, I want to be with the hold-up horse like Rosalien. Maybe Sardinian Warrior is more the way we should be looking, but more on that to come.
So let's get some vocab out of the way because some people are listening like, hold up, what is someone trying to rob a bank or something? Different terminology. I know what you mean, but so when Emmet's referring to hold up, someone horse they're going to be held up further in the back of the pack and what we would call closers. So that's what he means when he says hold up. In terms of low draw, high draw, again, just to get some vocabulary out there, Emmet, for people that aren't as familiar with racing overseas. The lower draw are obviously the lower post numbers, gate draws, 1, 2, 3, 4. The higher draws obviously be the higher ones, which could be up to 30 in some of the handicap races. Emmet, right? Yeah. So, and also if you hear near side, stand side, ladies and gentlemen, especially on the straight course that I'm going to just go ahead and point to again here. Obviously, if you hear, stand side, those are going to be the higher draws, the draws that are closest to where the people are, where the stands are, and the lower draws or the far side is going to be actually like the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, it's a little bit opposite, Emmet, of what some people would think here in the States. So I just wanted to clarify that. Of course, they're going to be going right-handed, which we don't do in the States at all. And the other thing I want to point out, Emmet, this is up to date as of the Ascot website. The green means the going is good. It's a little bit hard to see the writing there, but I want to make it bigger. And then it looks like towards the winning post or the finish line here on the bottom left, you see that teal color. It's more good to firm. So if anything, as they finish, the ground is actually going to be firmer. It is a slight uphill or what they call a stiff finish or a stiff mile over in Europe. When I was there, I was actually a little surprised. I thought it'd be much more like uphill than it was. I think it's very gradual. It's very subtle to me. I could be wrong, but is it more uphill than it appears?
I think it's more of an uphill one on the round course in the St.
On the
James's
round.
Palace Stakes.
Okay.
That's more of a stiff, proper mile. It is still a real stiff mile, though, in the Queen Anne on the straight course. It can be very deceptive for a few horses. Like if you're a proper 7 furlong horse, you're going to get found out. But most of the horses who are running in the Queen Anne are out and out milers, so they'll be okay.
People love folks like Paul Haller and Pete Visco, who, are my co-hosts, and make fun of my weather predictions. But I even gave you a little Celsius here today, 27 Celsius and even more so. It's going to be in the 80s, apparently, and sunny Fahrenheit in the UK. Small chance of rain, perhaps, but I'll tell you what, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. So that is not going to be a problem. You definitely want horses that prefer quicker ground, Emmet, in general. Is that correct? Next week?
Yeah. There's a bit of, we're not like you. You guys really love to have good to firm ground, and you actually allow your horses to run on it. There's something about the clerks of the course in the UK where it's like, oh my golly gosh, the ground is quick. We must water immediately. And it turns out to be a disaster. The Derby, for example, who could have thunk that it was going to rain when there was rain forecast and they still watered? So that was very, very controversial. But it meant that ruling court came out. We're going to see him in the St. James's Palace Stakes, so maybe that's going to work. But I'll just show very unscientifically, that is the forecast for the week for London. Red hot all week long. Beautiful sunshine. Ascot drains very quickly as well. So no matter what water they put down, Howard, it's going to be gone fairly fast. So you're going to see some course records be at risk this week.
Good friend Chris Couples of the show on bottom of the screen. I know just enough about your racing to be dangerous to my bank account. Look out. Chris Couples is going to be punting. A lot of people are very excited, about next week here in the States, I should say. And look who's here. You know this gentleman, Davey Lane. Davey Lane's going to be doing, can't come on live with us tonight, but he's going to be joining us Tuesday. We have a live show over on Tuesday only, 9 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking about the first few races as they go on live. And Davey's going to be, of course, he's not even a guest. He's more like a co-host these days. He also is the international tip sheet author for us, sitting on a train heading home. See you guys on Tuesday. Looking forward to that, Davey, very much. All right,
he's a legend.
Let's get into the first race. Unless there's anything in general, you feel like we should talk about American punters should know about Ascot in general.
No, let's roll it in. Let's go.
Roll
if anything comes up, we can throw it in.
All right. So here's what we're gonna do. Now the American daily racing form past performances are not in yet, but I do have general past performances from Equibase and some other places. And also I'm going to show this quite a bit on the screen. I'll bring it up here in just a second. And we've talked about this before. This is courtesy of At the Races. Emmet, can you please describe to our American punters, especially in viewers, what they see on the screen right now? This is for the Queen Anne, the first race on Tuesday. I'll make this a little bit bigger. What do we see here?
So this is the betting. The betting on this side of the pond is bookmakers where you can take a price, basically, as opposed to your pool betting where you're going to whatever your SP is going to be on at the finality. We actually have the advantage of taking a price, assuming we can get a bet on, which is another conversation entirely. But the favorite for this race is Rehan. He was a St. James's Palace Stakes winner last year. He's a Group 1 winning 2-year-old in Paris Longchamp. He's unbeaten at the track in 2 starts. Very, very impressive in a novice race at Ascot, beating Dancing Gemini. For what it's worth. Then got bogged down in the mud in a juvenile race after that, went to Paris Longchamp, was much the best horse on the day and beat the horse Unquestionable, who would go on to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. It was his seasonal debut when he was beaten in the 2,000 Guineas by the reopposing Notable Speech in this race. And at the time, it looked like Notable Speech was going to be just a worldie, a complete superstar. But Euro Kentucky Derby, you see horses run 2-3 times that year in preparation for that race. Our 2,000 Guineas, 10 of the last 14 have won on seasonal debut, except for the last 2, Ruling Court, who prepped in Dubai, and Notable Speech, who was unraced as a juvenile. He was the first horse for 86 years to win the Guineas without racing as a 2-year-old. And I think the reason he won, Howard, is because he was hard fit. He'd had those 3 races on the all-weather. Rehan was really the better horse in the race, but he just lacked the fitness. He came out, won the Irish 2,000 Guineas, beating Hatem. That wasn't necessarily an improvement in form. Hatem had been 3rd in the 2,000 Guineas at Newmarket, but River Tiber was a really good juvenile. He was back in 3rd place in the Irish 2,000 Guineas. He then comes to Ascot. The rematch is on between Notable Speech and him, and Rehan bolts up. He beats the Group 1 winning 2-year-old Henry Longfellow in the process. You're going to show the lock-inch here now.
Take us through the stretch. Well, the stretch. It's a flat mile and it is a straightaway, just like it is for Ascot. Take us through. These are basically the top 4 horses right now in the market for the Queen Anne. This is the lock-in. It was a Group 1 Even though it's a Group 1, it's more of a prep for the Queen Anne. There's a few things I do want to point out because I
Yep.
deep dove and watched a lot of podcasts. In the Queen Anne Stakes on Tuesday, when we're talking about, 13 of the last 19 runnings have been mainly won by 4 and 5-year-olds, or mainly 4-year-olds. 6 of the last 10 have won the Queen Anne, came from the Lockage, and 3 of them actually won both the Lockage and the Queen Anne. So this is absolutely a key race. Tell everyone what we see here and your opinions of this year's Lockage run last month.
Yeah, 16 of the last 29 winners were beaten in the Lockage. So it's not always the horse who wins this race that comes out and wins the Queen Anne. But you're going to see in the middle is Fallen Angel. We'll talk about that horse tomorrow, or for Wednesday, I should be saying. In the Judmont Silks there in the pink cap, that's Lead Artist. He'd been beaten on his seasonal debut. Yep. He would go on to win this race under Oisin Murphy, who took over for the first time. Beside him in the orange is Dancing Gemini. He's on the whiteout, just on the next to him. He was ridden by Ryan Moore. He was sent off favorite for this race. He came into it on the back of 2 wins, one at listed level, the other in a Group 3 or Group 2, the Sandown Mile. That's a good prep for this race. And then on the rail, you've got Notable Speech, the Godolphin horse, beaten in the Breeders' Cup Mile, and beside him is Resalian. So these 2 horses are having their seasonal debut. Lead Artist is having his second start of the season, having been well beaten but bogged down in the mud. And Dancing Gemini comes to win the race, having been sent off with red hot favourite. Ryan Moore feels he got there a little bit too soon, that he should have held on to him a bit more. I'm not sure it would have changed things really. His trainer was of the opinion that the ground was just a little bit unsuitable for him, too good to firm. Oisin Murphy really galvanizes Lead Artist here quite well. He fights off really strongly. I'll give myself a pat on the back. We tipped him at 20-1 on the Final Furlong podcast. It wasn't a surprise to us that he won. Yeah, but the reason I'm saying that, though, is he actually had finished in front of this horse in Goodwood last year, so it wasn't that much of a shock to me that he turned the form around, and the run at Sandown was too bad to be true. Now, he needed to step forward, but he did. He's coming into this race in the back of a career best effort. He's eligible to improve. He's completely unexposed. For Dancing Gemini, he's been beaten 5 times in Group 1 races. Now, I think there's mitigating circumstances. The ground was against him in the Futurity Stakes as a juvenile when he was beaten. The ground went against him in the French last minute. It rained very, very heavily. That went against him. The distance was completely against him in the Derby when they took on City of Troy. The distance and the ground is again against him in the Eclipse. And if you watch the Goodwood race, which we were covering on TalkSport 2, so I was watching all of this live, he just did his brains entirely. He got really worked up on the way down to the start, just wrecked himself, gave himself no chance whatsoever. End of the season, he runs in the QE2 at Ascot. Again, it's soft ground. He had no chance that day. The thing that would worry me about him, Howard, is what's his excuse? What's his excuse this time? He was race fit. He's got the 2 wins to his name. He was really good in listed company, really good in that group race at Sandown. I thought he was beaten fair and square. I see no reason why Lead Artist doesn't beat him again. Are they going to be able to uphold the form, though, with the ones in behind? The betting is very much fancying Resalian to turn it around. Resalian is currently 3-1 best prices you were seeing with the At the Races prices there. I'm not sure if that 3-1 is going to hold up. In fact, if it did, I'd start to get a bit suspicious about that, because his connections were very, very bullish that he was going to win the Lockage until the day. And then they started to get a little bit nervous and say, oh, well, he'll need it and he'll improve. And then that's what happened. Notable Speech. I don't know about you, Howard, but you and I both did the breakdown of the Breeders' Cup. Watching it back the other day, he actually does shape like the best horse in the race, but there's no excuse. The winner comes from behind him. He had every chance to go and win it. I think he might be better over 10 furlongs, and I'm not even sure if he's that good in the first place. I know that half of the Godolphin camp think he's going to win this, including William Buick. The other half think, he's all right. The most likely winner of this race is Resalian. I actually fancy a couple of new shooters in this race.
Let's talk about that for a second. Now, I know, because I've listened to some of your podcasts, you're a little shaky on the Lockage form this year. You don't think that necessarily was a great race, and Notable Speech can take a lot of money for, of course, Buick and Godolphin, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
There's some interesting fresh shooters in this race that are what they call roughies overseas that people might want to make each way bets on, especially those of you watching in Europe, which are, of course, in the U.S., if you're not familiar with each way, is a win and show bet. It's sort of like a longer price that you might like to use and take a few shekels at here. Talk about, I know there's 2 horses that you're interested, especially Mr. Diego Velasquez perhaps upset the field in the Queen Anne.
Yeah, I really like Diego Velasquez, but I spoke to Aidan O'Brien on Friday. He was at pains to point out how gutted they are that they didn't get a run into him. He was supposed to run at Leopardstown, if I remember correctly. He gets upset in the stalls, had to come out. They had him entered for a week and a half ago as well, over 9 furlongs. And again, I think they just thought it was too close to Ascot. The reason I like Diego Velasquez so much is that they sent him off 2-1 for the King Edward VII Stakes last year. And whenever a Coolmore horse, specifically an Aidan O'Brien Coolmore horse, is sent off a price that is not justified on form, that means they think an awful lot of this racehorse. Think Declaration of War being sent off 11-8 for the Lock-in Stakes, gets beaten, but then comes out and wins this race. Think Haradison. It was a very similar thing, actually, for this exact same race as well. Diego Velasquez has a Royal Ascot pedigree. He's by Frankel, obviously, who won this race. And out of Sweepstake, who produced Point Lonsdale, who won the Chesham, and Broome, who won the Hardwick, both for Aidan O'Brien. They were of the opinion he was a middle distance horse. He's not. He's a miler, maximum 10 furlongs. At one stage, he was favoured for the Breeders' Cup Mile after 2 wins in Group Company, that Group 3 win in the Mel Stakes, where he came wide at Leopardstown and still ended up winning by 7 lengths. And then he controlled the race in the front end in the Irish Champions weekend when he was winning back-to-back years at Leopardstown in the Group 2. Maljoom was in behind him. Maljoom was second to Notable Speech in the Sussex Stakes. Diego Velasquez is 14-1. This Notable Speech is 5s. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. There's very little between him and Dancing Gemini in the French Guineas and the Futurity. They both would have been inconvenienced by the ground that day, and yet Dancing Gemini is 9-2. Diego Velasquez is 12-1. Aidan O'Brien won this race with the first time out in 2020 in Circus Maximus, and first time out horses have got a reasonable record. Tornado won it first time out for the Hannons as well. They can do it. It's just the fact that they haven't quite got the run into him. But look, he's completely unexposed. He has a Royal Ascot pedigree. I'm definitely going to play him in the exotics. It wouldn't shock me if he wins.
Are you concerned about the low draw in the 1 hole for Diego Velasquez?
Not ideal. Doesn't really worry me too much, though, when it's this field with Ryan Moore.
Okay. Very interesting. Now, we have to talk about our boy, the boy that was just bought for, I believe it was 6 or 7 million by Australian connections, Yulong Investments, Carl Spackler. Carl Spackler is a very popular horse here in the States. This is an extremely ambitious spot. He's got European breeding. This is not your normal USA horse, Emmet. And I wouldn't come on the show and say it otherwise. I'm not saying he's going to win the darn race, but this is a very talented horse. I had the pleasure of seeing him in person several times. The Keeneland run in April, I was there for. He's very athletic. He's not like a huge imposing type. He's very athletic. He's got the 8 hole here, the 8 gate. I think he draws well. He can be forward, Emmet. And when you think of the best, let me go full screen. When you think of the best U.S. horses, other than the Wesley Ward sprinters, like your Teppins and your really good horses that ran well at Ascot, when they do it close to the lead, because the bottom line is a lot of these USA horses can't out finish and out kick in the closing sectionals, these monster Euros. But Carl Spackler is more mid-pack to up close. He's not ranked. He actually has a great style for this race. I would not be shocked, Emmet, if Carl Spackler is in the money here in the top 3, because other than Rosalian, I think there's a lot of question marks in this field. It sort of feels to me like it's either Rosalian or could be several. And I wouldn't be shocked if Carl Spackler can get in the money. I know, he didn't run well in the Breeders' Cup Mile. There were reasons why. It was a very fast pace. He just didn't work out for him. I think he's a bit interesting. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you are at all. If I remember correctly, and I need to click on this, so I normally like to have all of this stuff off the top of my head, but it's very unprofessional to be clicking on something in the middle of a show.
No
Carl Spackler is 135 time form. Rosalian is 138. He's the 5th highest rated horse on time form. He's just 1 pound behind Dancing Gemini, 2 behind Notable Speech and Lead Artist, and then 3 behind Rosalian. On Racing Post ratings, he's top. On the RPRs, he comes out number 1. And I'm pretty certain his top speed figure rates very highly for this race as well, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Carl Spackler is 136 on RPRs, ahead, just level with Notable Speech, but ahead. Sorry, it's Rosalian, Notable Speech, and Carl Spackler are all that. That Breeders' Cup Mile run was huge. That was just a messy race, but there's not a whole lot between him and Notable Speech on the back of that performance, and you're getting 20-1 about him. Teppin was really shown no respect in this race back in 2016, was it, when she won it?
I believe, yeah.
She was sent off 11-2. Now, she was a monster of a horse, to be fair to her, and it's a real shame she's no longer around, but she produced Delacroix, who was sent off favourite for the Derby, and a Group 1 winner called Grateful, who won in Paris Longchamp on Arc Weekend last year, so her genes will carry on. But she was a real superstar of a horse. She came over and wasn't given respect. This fella's not being given respect either, probably because people are looking at him as, well, he was beaten in the Breeders' Cup Mile, and now he's Australian, and it's just kind of a day out. They've paid 56 grand to supplement him. Now, that's nothing to his owners, having paid 6 million to acquire him, but he's He's a fascinating runner in this race, and I would not underestimate him. I think the only horse you can rule out with confidence is Cairo. I don't think you can rule anything else out. Quada would need to improve, but he's very lightly raced. He won the trial for this race a year ago, beating Docklands, who ended up finishing second in this race. He wasn't beaten far at all by Sharon in a Group 1 in Paris-Longchamp, in Deauville last season. Sharon blew him away completely in the QE2, but that was on soft ground. He's unexposed. Docklands himself is a big player. He was second again in the trial for this race. All of his best form comes at Ascot. He's never been out of the first 3 on this track. First, third, second, including second to Sharon in this race a year ago. Showed himself to be in really good form in Epsom in the Emmet Stakes last time out. That was a track that really wouldn't have suited him, and actually he probably should have won that race given the interference he suffered. He's a player, but the horse who beat him is the one that really intrigues me, Howard. Sardinian Warrior. This is a very exciting horse for the John and Thady Gosden team. Now they're adamant that he's the second string behind Lead Artist, but they were saying the other day he's a nice horse, and he really is. He had a Dante entry and a Derby entry last season. He began the campaign by winning at Southwell on the all-weather by 4.5 lengths. John and Thady Gosden have used the all-weather quite a bit for really good horses, including Enable, who was an absolute superstar for them. But many of their good horses have started there just because the ground and the way the weather is these years hasn't been great. So the all-weather has been a breeding ground for future champions. He ended up missing most of last summer, came back in October, bolted up in a novice race again at Southwell. Then he dismisses a 95 rated horse by 4 lengths off a mark of 97. Begins this season on his first ever run on the grass in the trial for this race. I think 2019 Accidental Agent won this race. He'd finished third in that trial.
That's course and distance, right? That's on the straight, that April 30th race, correct?
Yeah, it's a listed race, but it's a very significant trial for this. And he and the course specialist Docklands pull clear of everything else. Form has worked out pretty well. But even just him as an individual, they go to Paris-Longchamp, they take on Saucy, who was supplemented for the race at the last second. That was over 9.5 furlongs. Saucy's stamina kicks in. He's a proper horse. Grand Prix de Paris winner. He was winning his second Group 1 of the season. His form ties in with Los Angeles and with Illinois as well. He was 4th in the Arc. He's a real superstar. Sardinian Warrior is completely unexposed. He gets Christophe Soumillon, which I absolutely love. I think he's a really, really strong each way bet here, Sardinian Warrior.
It's really a fascinating race. We're not going to talk about every race, of course, this long, ladies and gentlemen, but this is the Carl Spackler race, and it's the first race of the day. Very quickly, before we go on to the race 2 on Tuesday, talk a little bit about, there's been a lot of jockey buzz with the bookings regarding either Kieran Schumark or Colin Keane. You're going to hear American punters. You're going to hear a lot of this name, Colin Keane. He's a very talented young jockey who's excellent. However, 2 for 62 in his rides at Ascot. That's what we call no bueno here on the podcast, Emmet. Should we be worried if we see Colin Keane in the PPs because he's 2 for his last 62? However, very talented. And also talk a little about Kieran Schumark, a name that maybe some American punters do not know very well.
I'm waiting for Charlie Freeman to burst into this call and start going, he's a hack. He's no good. Colin Keane's a class act. He's a really talented jockey. He's only got 2 wins at Royal Ascot, but what were the SPs of the horses he was riding? What chances did he really have? The guy he's been riding for is a brilliant trainer, Ger Lyons, Breeders' Cup winning trainer. Give him the ammunition and he will fire the bullets. But Ger tends to save his best ammunition for Ireland. And so some of the runners that would have been going over there would have been more social runners than anything else. And then he might have been picking up like 3rd string rides for big operations, but he wasn't really riding the number 1 horses. Go back and look at the ride he gave Tamfana in the Sun Chariot Stakes last year. He came in for the ride when Oisin Murphy was committed to ride. Was it See the Fire, I think? Magic. Absolutely magic. He's a fantastic jockey. He's a brilliant talent. I'm delighted for him that he's got the Juddmonte role. Ger Lyons is a brilliant trainer. He's going to be riding for Ger Lyons on Friday with Babouche, who's owned by Juddmonte. But this is a guy who should be riding top-class horses on a consistent basis. He'll now get the opportunity to do that. As for Kieran Schumark, good jockey. He's not Colin Keane.
Okay. Well, there you go. So the last question of the Queen Anne. Scale 1 to 10, I mean. Let's say 10 is the best rendition of the Queen Anne with Frankel and blah, blah, blah that you've ever seen. And let's say 1 is a very poor running and that it's really more like a Group 2 disguised as a Group 1. Where would you put this year's Queen Anne in terms of level of talent? And does that give Spackler more or less of a chance to be a factor in this race, in your opinion?
That is a brilliant question because Frankel destroyed Acceleration, who would go on to win the QE2, and he battered him, murdered him.
Or Acceleration, I mean, any other few years, Acceleration would have been one of the best horses to ever run.
I mean, that's why Coolmore bought him. It's like, oh, this guy's going to win a lot of Group 1s. Franco. Yeah, he was a top-class racehorse. If he'd hung around, if they kept him in training as a 5-year-old, he'd have probably murdered everything. But I don't know if I want to take 3-1 about Rosalien. I think he's the most likely winner. It wouldn't shock me if he went off a shorter price. Significantly shorter, actually. But respiratory infection that rules him out for the entire season, I wonder how much damage did that do. And then you're just a little bit concerned about the fact that he's... Like, I spoke with Carl Burke the day before the Lock-Inge, and he was telling me that Richard Hannon was telling him, you may as well not even bother turning up to the Lock-Inge. We're going to win this race. Now, he's a playful character, and he's a very confident man. But if you're that confident leading up to the race, and then you're like, oh, actually, no, he's going to need this. I don't know. Look, I really like Rosalien. I think he's the most talented horse in the race, and he's the most likely winner. But I would prefer to go for a new shooter. I'm going to side with Sardinian Warrior. I think the more I look at him, his lead artist is not just the obvious one, because he's going to love the straight mile at Ascot. He's going to love that stiff track. He's coming into this in the back of a career best effort. Yeah. How does he not at least finish in the first 3? What about Lake Forest? Second in the Commonwealth Cup last season, probably over a trip that was not far enough for him. Watch the race back. He shapes like the best horse in the race. Inisherin ends up winning it. He shapes well in the July Cup, and he's had a good comeback run. They take him down under. He wins £2.8 million in prize money and beats Lazat, who's now favourite for the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes, the big sprint race on the Saturday. If he stays and he's got a Royal Ascot pedigree, then he's a major player for a very, very shrewd trainer. This is an impossible race. I can't wait for it.
Very tough. I'm leading, no pun intended, to lead artist right now, but I have to do some more handicapping as we're still, a day and a half outside, or 2 days almost outside of the races. All right, let's move on. Very quickly, just about a minute or two, just to give people a little bit of taste. The second race, which is the 305 at Ascot on Tuesdays, the 2-year-old Group 2. It's the Coventry. You see the current market right now, postmodern and military code on the top of the market. Your quick thoughts in this race, Emmet?
Well, Aidan O'Brien told me on Friday that Ryan Moore was going to ride Stad, and indeed he does. This is a horse that was highlighted by Aidan O'Brien at the start of the season as a horse that they were very much looking forward to. He's got a beautiful pedigree. He's a half-brother to European champion juvenile sprinter. City of Troy was European champion 2-year-old that year. But he was the European champion 2-year-old sprinter, Van Dijk, who was a dual Group 1 winner as a juvenile. Didn't really kick on as a 3-year-old, but he's by Star Spangled Banner, so he's got that Royal Ascot pedigree. He was a good winner first time up under Chris Hayes, who came in for the ride. True Love for Aidan O'Brien was sent off favourite. She's going to go for the Queen Mary Stakes over the Flying 5 Furlongs. Aidan O'Brien has won 16 juvenile races over the last 10 years at Royal Ascot from 60 races. It's a phenomenal record. He's won this race 3 times, but when he wins it, it tends to be with a very, very well-backed horse. And they had a very well-backed horse for this called Albert Einstein, who was 11-10 in the anti-poster future markets for this race. He got injured, and that makes me interested in his form line. There's a horse called Andab, who was a wide margin winner first time out of the Curragh. It takes a lot to win a Curragh maiden by 4.5 lengths, and this is what this Joseph O'Brien horse did. Doesn't have a typical juvenile pedigree. He's by Saxon Warrior out of an Invincible Spirit mare. You'd be thinking the further he goes, the better he'll be. But he then shaped in the Group 3 Marble Hill Stakes behind Albert Einstein, who was the favourite for this race, really, really nicely. Only beaten a length and a half. Subsequently emerged. He'd actually had a setback leading up to that race, and things hadn't gone easy for him. So the fact that he managed to get as close to Albert Einstein as he did, and Albert Einstein was then the 11-10 favourite for this, I think that bodes very well for Andab. He's a 22-1 shot for a very, very talented trainer in Joseph O'Brien. He should not be underestimated. And that obviously makes you interested then as well in the first season sire Space Blues, Power Blue, who finished second to Albert Einstein. The horse he beat, I just happen to have a bit of insight about, Slaney View, probably the best juvenile that Jim Bulger has trained since Poetic Flair won the St. James's Palace Stakes from a few years ago. 2021, actually, that horse won. It had just been a lean time for the Bulger yard, but they really like that Slaney View. He was then third to Lady Iman for Ger Lyons. That horse is going to skip Royal Ascot, but she's probably the most talented juvenile in Ireland. And then he finishes second to Albert Einstein, who would have been favourite for this race. He's been bought by Kia Jabraken's Ammo Racing in the last few days. David Egan takes over. Adrian Murray has trained winners at Royal Ascot before, including a juvenile winner at 150-1. And he's had horses placed in this race. 20-1 about Power Blue and Andab are the two I would go with. Just a note of caution, last year the winner of this race was 80-1. 5 years ago, the winner was 150-1. Proceed with caution.
Yeah, it's interesting. You see horses that only have one race. You see others that have 3. I got to tell you, I almost prefer a horse that only have 1 run. They just have bigger upside. These are all 2-year-olds, so obviously they all have very good upside. But when I see running lines of 3 times or more at this point. I always get a little bit with heebie-jeebies, but it's going to be a very fun race. Wathnan's got a lot of horses. Postmodern 5-2, at least on the past performances I see, won by 5. Wow, in that first race, and 110-2, which is out of actually USA fans should know, Too Darn Hot, which was, I believe, a Wesley Ward horse. I have to go back and look at it. Speaking of Wesley,
John
Kevin,
Gosden.
sort of shocking. Wesley Ward, no runners this year. He had a very talented runner called Outfielder, who was going to a 2-year-old male. Actually, I think it was a female horse who won off the screen at Churchill, but had a little injury, and he's just not overly confident with his 2-year-olds this year. So no Wesley Ward, unfortunately, at Ascot this year, Emmet. Sort of.
Yeah, my producer on TalkSport was just about to message him and say, "Can we sort out the interview for this year, please, Wesley?" And I just happened to see Wesley Ward, no trip to Royal Ascot. I said, "Ross, don't go near him, leave him alone." Yeah, it's been a bit of a quiet time for him. Like, it was a complete blowout last year, a blowout the year before as well, and now no runner. I hope that turns around, because Wesley Ward brings a lot of color to Royal Ascot, and Royal Ascot is a truly international meeting. I was talking to Nick Smith, who's the main man there, and is responsible for turning it into a real international meeting. He goes to the Breeders' Cup and persuades all the American trainers to come over, and the American owners as well, the Japanese, the Australians. Without having Wesley Ward there, it's a real blow. There is going to be still American representation, but you want to see him back in the winners' enclosure. And I think an awful lot of our trainers have learned from Wesley Ward about, if you're going to have a winner at Royal Ascot, they need to be precocious, fast, early 2-year-olds. And even Aidan O'Brien has learned from that.
One of our great fans, Ralph Conti, we usually have banners on the screen, as you know, for top 3. Ralph, we're not doing that today because I haven't made final decisions. I'm not sure Emmet has, but Emmet, can you just give a real quick top 3 for the first 2 races, in your opinion? So
Sardinian Warrior, I'll give you the TriCast for the first race, hopefully, that I'm going to play anyway. Sardinian Warrior, Rosalien, Diego Velasquez, and I'll play Docklands. Now, I'm having to persuade myself to not do Carl Spackler because you were so persuasive there. But that's the 4 that I've been agreed on for quite a while. I'd be nervous of lead artist. For this race, I respect Stad an awful lot for Aidan O'Brien, but I'm going to have to side with Andab and Power Blue, 22-1 and 20s. I like them an awful lot. The other Aidan O'Brien horse, I'm hoping drifts right now on this side of the pond. He's only about 15-2. He's called Warsaw. He's a Wootton Basset out of a Galileo mare who's a sister to the dam who produced City of Troy, and also Together Forever, who won the Oaks, or Forever Together, who won the Oaks, I should say. It's the other one is Together Forever, irrespective of Together Forever and Forever Together. They're both sisters, and they're both proper racehorses. Warsaw was an 18-1 winner first time up for Aidan O'Brien, and backs up into this race only 10 days later. He won by 2.5 lengths really, really easily and looks very classy. If he drifts out to a double-figure price, he could be an interesting one for the exotics.
Yep, Wayne Lauren has the ride for that Wooden Basset out of a Galileo mare, España. But not from Spain, from Ireland. Interesting.
Yeah.
Confusing. All right, let's go on to the next race, the King Charles III. This is the Group 1. This is the 340 on Tuesday. It is the 5 furlong. It's the premier sprint race of the meet. I have 2 replays I'm going to show. If you give me a moment to do that as we talk for about 5 or 6 minutes in this race, I'm going to show the Maidan race, the Alquaz earlier. I'm going to show last year's running, which I was there for because of this race, because there's a lot of commonalities between those 2 races. Let's show the right now, the market right now. You got the Australian mare Asfora, who won last year at the top of the market, along with Believing, who pun intended, I believe is your top choice. Regional's a nice horse. Night Raider is dropping back in distance, a very fascinating horse. I know Majira for Buick is a horse you mentioned, and Starlust won the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. So this is a very nice rendition. As I go ahead and set up some replays, go ahead and give our viewers and listeners overall thoughts in the King Charles III, Emmet.
Yeah, so I feel the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes is the deeper of the 2 sprints this year, but this is wide open. And again, just a fantastic race to kick off the meeting. You've got a really wide open Queen Anne and a really wide open King Charles III Stakes. Asafora deserves to be favourite. She's not, and they've put blinkers on her for the first time, which worries me a little bit. Now, I got this horse badly wrong a year ago. We covered her live on TalkSport 2 when she made her debut in Britain in Haydock. And I thought, well, wasted journey for her. She's useless. And then she goes and wins this race and really should have won at Goodwood and came out best. She carried the Group 1 penalty, was narrowly beaten by Big Ebbs. That was a bit of a heartbreak. Even at York, when she was a little bit like Schwazir, the Australian horse who probably overstayed his welcome, really, when he got beaten in the July Cup. It was just a little bit over the top. I think that's what happened to her at York last season in the Good to Firm ground when she was beaten fourth with Believing, turning the form around with her that day. I think she's a very, very talented filly, but they've had a problem, or mare, I should say. They've had a problem with her. The logistical effort wasn't as easy to get her here, and that's why she hasn't had her prep run in the way that she normally would. But she's won a Group 3 down under, and she was only beaten 2 3/4 lengths in a Group 1 last time out. She's not the best Group 1 sprinter in Australia, far from it, but that doesn't matter because their sprinters just tend to be better than ours. This is the Al Quoz Sprint in Dubai on Dubai World Cup night, and Coolmore spent $3 million to buy Believing, who Howard is pointing out there, who's making her debut in the purple silks of Coolmore. She was very, very busy last season, including running in the 2 big Group 1s at Royal Ascot last year. This is a great ride from William Buick and a deserved Group 1 win for Believing. She was very, very unlucky last year. She ran in multiple races where either the pace bias was against her or the draw bias was against her. She kept on coming up short against horses like Bradsell. Look at her there, brave out towards the end. Really classy performance. She's now in foal to Frankel, so this is probably going to be the last time you're going to see her on a race course. That was a deserved Group 1 win. This would be a deserved Group 1 win as well. Stall 1 is not necessarily ideal. Low draws haven't formed fantastically well in this race over the years, but it's Ryan Moore, it's George Bowie. There's an awful lot to like about her. I just think she's short enough.
Believing in third. I'm sorry, I was Believing in third, right next to Regional. I'm sorry, that was Regional in third, right next to Believing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he was in front of Believing a year ago. The other point I'd make is Believing has run well at Ascot, but she hasn't won here. That's just another factor to bear in mind. Now, again, you're getting Ryan Moore, but Ryan Moore rode her quite a bit last year too. You can't fix a pace bias, you can't fix a draw bias, and you can't fix if the horse isn't quite as good. She's a lovely filly. She's very, very talented. Maybe the fact that she's in full to Frankel will improve her. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. That can be a fallacy. She's intriguing. Regional, there's not much between him and Believing, and for that matter, Asaphora either. He's capable of running a big race. I think Night Raider is the really, really interesting one. The frustrating thing is, Howard, keeps being backed. Every time I go and look at him, he's a shorter price. The thing I like about this horse is he's completely unexposed over the trip of 5 furlongs. This is the first time he's ever run on it. He's really unexposed as a sprinter as well. Now, he needs to prove that he can translate his form from the synthetics to the turf. He's yet to win on grass, but his all-weather form is very, very good. And he's a very, very pacey horse. If you watch back his performance at York, this is Royal Ascot.
This is last year's race. Let me freeze it so we can get to. So I believe. Let's see if I have this right. This is Believing, I believe, right here.
That's her. Yeah.
On the far side.
Look where Asaphora is, though.
This is Regional right here.
Yeah.
Who was sort of looking all. You'll watch Regional because I mean she was looking into the crowd. She was not exactly focused and sort of drifted out. And here's the winner, the Australian horse Asaphora. Go ahead. What do you think of this race from last year?
Well, this was one where it was kind of jaw on the floor. I'm like, how in the name of God did Oisin Murphy get that horse to win? How has the Aussies managed to do it again? Because she wanders around the track quite a bit as well. I mean, look at the ground that Asaphora gives away and still goes and wins. Why is Believing suddenly going to turn the form around with her? It's the logistical effort that would worry me. Why was Regional going to turn the form around with her either, by the way? She's tracked over. She's given away so many lengths by doing that and still managed to go and win. And look, those Australian sprinters are just better than ours. Europe is obsessed with breeding precocious speed horses. And then it turns out we don't actually have any ones that are any good when it actually comes to these Group 1 races. So maybe things are going to turn around with this Night Rider, though. So his best form is on the synthetics, but they dropped him back to 6 furlongs last time out on his seasonal debut at York. It was on good to firm ground. Ina Sheeran was backed as though defeat was out of the question that day, and that's exactly how it panned out. And that was very interesting because Kevin Ryan's horses were fairly quiet in the lead up to that race, but first run after a wind up. Flora of Bermuda, top class Group 1 performer, hasn't won her Group 1 yet, but she's not far away from it. She's in second, and Night Rider is just behind them. The thing that is interesting is Oisin Murphy said to Carl Burke after that race, drop this horse back to 5 furlongs, and they will not see which way he's gone. In the meantime, Watnan have stepped in and bought him. Now, I think it would have been very interesting if he'd remained with Clipper Logistics. Who would Oisin Murphy have chosen? Night Rider or Asaphora? Don't know. Can't tell you. Can't tell you.
That would have been really interesting. But this horse going to go right to the lead for James Doyle, dropping back in distance, has run over the Ascot course last year, although it was horrible in the Jersey Stakes. I'm sure there was some reason they're losing to Hot Time, etc. But this is a horse you fancy for a decent price.
Yeah, I like him. I'm hoping he's going to drift between now and then. I recorded a Final Furlong podcast day 1 preview today, and one of my pundits, Aidan O'Hara, said this fella should be 14s. I think that's ambitious, Aidan, but maybe he will drift out between now and then because there should be a bit of support for Believing. just blind faith for Ryan Moore. The more people look at this, I think they're just going to blindly go with the defending champion and the Australian, thinking, well, the Australian sprinters are just better than us. Also, people are going to look at Knight Raider and see he hasn't won on the grass yet, and so they might just think synthetic form. Synthetic form translates very well to Ascot, though. That Ascot track actually replicates the synthetic form quite well. I think he's going to blaze a trail, make all, and be very, very hard to beat. I think they'll do well to come back to him. And I think he's a really, really exciting one for Wathanan and for James Doyle. Magira is interesting for Ed Walker. She's completely turned around since she joined him. I think the price of 10-1 is it's there now. Like that's in and around what it should be, but she's interesting. Starlost seems to just save his best efforts, I think, for America. I'm a little bit more interested in American Affair, who's coming up through the handicap ranks. There's been some big offers for this horse, trained by Jim Goldie. Jim Goldie's a legendary trainer. He's a brilliant target trainer as well, and very, very good with speed-orientated horses. Paul Mulrennan is a canny journeyman. Jockey is maybe an unfair way of putting it, but he's a talented rider. I think he got it all wrong at Haydock the other day. I think he was very indecisive. He went to go left, then realized, oh no, I should go right. And by the time he's messed around, the horse loses significant ground. I think he can turn the form around with Magira. That's a better run than it looked. And our sprinters, the elite handicappers, are not far off the Group 1 level. This fast pace is going to really suit American Affair too. And again, they've turned down some big offers for this horse. I really like him. I think he's much better than you've seen so far. A double figure price is interesting about him. Just one more at a big price. Asterius has got proper Group 1 form, including running in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint last year when only 2.5 lengths off Magnum Force. He was sort of intimidated that day as well. Things didn't really pan out well for him, but he was a good winner over Big Mojo and Group Company last season. A good winner at Parry Longshop as well. James McDonald is going to come in for the ride for Watnan. He's going to be their second jockey for at least the first couple of days for Watnan. Archie Watson's got a great record on the straight course. He had trained the first winner for 17 years to win this as a 3-year-old. Asterius has got serious form to his name and gets the weight allowance as a 3-year-old as well. I think he's interesting at a big price.
And James McDonald is riding Carl Spackler. For people that are not familiar with James McDonald, he's just an excellent rider from, Australia, correct?
Yeah.
Could talk a little about James McDonald, who's riding Carl Spackler for, again, American punters, especially who may not be familiar with James McDonald. An excellent rider. A big fan, by the way. Davey Lane's a big fan. James McDonald as well.
Yeah, he's a top-class rider, and he has experience of Ascot as well. I think 2018, I was working for ITV when he was there. I'm pretty sure he was riding for Sir Michael Stout. So he has experience at Royal Ascot. He knows the track very well. He's a big race international rider. He's pretty dominant in Australia, pretty dominant in Asia as well whenever he goes. He's a jockey in demand. I'm a little bit disappointed that Holly Doyle's not riding this horse, actually, because Holly rides that straight course brilliantly, but James McDonald is an incredible talent, and you'd be happy to have him on board.
Matt Bajunkin on the bottom of the screen. I can only imagine the former Highclere owners of Believing wiping their tears away with stacks of bills as Believing won the Alquaz for Coolmore. Wow, Matt, thanks for joining the show. Matt's an excellent punter here. Very good contest player, by the way, here, Emmet, as well. And, of course, fan of the show. So we've got awesome fans just like you do. All right, let's go on to the last big race of the day on day one. Obviously, day two, we'll go through a lot more quickly. This will not be a 2-hour podcast, but people at home are like, why not? Let's just keep it rolling. This is great information, especially for our USA
I hope so.
players.
I hope so.
Oh, absolutely is. St. James Palace. This is a really good race. This is the 420 race. Again, when I see these times, that's local. Subtract 6 hours, ladies and gentlemen. Subtract 6 hours. Sorry, 6 hours for Central, 5 hours if you're on the East Coast. So the 420 is 11:20 a.m. on Tuesday, this race. This is the St. James Palace. It's 7 furlongs plus 213 yards. Don't forget that. It is on the round course. And wow, this is, I don't know if you can have features when there's several Group 1s, but this race is super duper good. You got Field of Gold, Ruling Court, and Henri Matisse. Henri Matisse is a horse that we know very well here in the U.S., won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year, going 4-5 wide at Del Mar, doing it very impressively. This is a horse who is a massive late kick, and I know you're a fan of this horse to maybe upset the heavy favorite in this race, Field of Gold, in the St. James.
Yeah, I love this horse. So look, I should just provide a bit of context here, first of all. Everybody I speak to, or at least some of the people I respect the most in the game, just think this Field of Gold is a good thing. Absolute stone cold certainty. They can't see past him. John Gosden keeps telling everybody he's Kingman 2.0. I'm paraphrasing, but basically saying very bullish comments about him like that. Yeah, Kingman was a proper racehorse. maybe he is. Maybe he is, Howard. This is what you were asking me about Kieran Schumacher earlier on. This is where the whole Kieran Schumacher thing kicked off. He was very, very impressive in the Craven Stakes. I tipped him on the Final Furlong podcast. He was 9-2. He ends up going off 100-30. I thought that was crazy. He should have been a huge prize. Oh, thank you, Matt. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Shout out to the Final Furlong podcast posse. Thank you very much, Matt. We'll hopefully give you a shout out on the show. If my brain can remember, Matt, it probably won't head like a sieve. But thank you. I appreciate that. Very kind. Look, Field of Gold is priced up as the odds-on favorite because the attitude from most people is that he should have won the 2,000 guineas. And I think two things can be true. I think it was a bad ride, but it's not necessarily such a bad ride that he should have won. I think Ruling Court's a really good horse.
I'm going to bring up that video. I'm going to bring up that video. Let me bring it up. And as I bring it up, explain to people. I know we're doing this the opposite direction. We should watch the video and then you should explain. But you got to give. Well,
I'll discuss
a chance.
His profile.
Explain to everyone why you feel like, or some people feel like it was not a great ride. I watched it a few times. I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm not so sure. Actually, go ahead.
Okay, we can debate that. I'll just say this: the way he's priced up, you'd think he's a Group 1 winning 2-year-old. And a multiple classic winner, but he isn't. He went to the Prix-Jean Lagardère last year and he got beaten. Now, maybe it was the soft ground that got him beat, but Henri Matisse is just in behind him. And Henri Matisse was intimidated in that race. Everything went wrong. He hated the ground. He gets intimidated. He got upset in the stalls beforehand. All the excuses were there. I interviewed Aidan O'Brien, so did you, before the Breeders' Cup. Friend of the show, Aidan O'Brien, friend of the Triple H Racing podcast, and friend of the Final Furlong podcast. Sure. And we were both, when I was on your show for the first time, I was saying to you, I cannot remember, with the exception of Johannesburg, juveniles, the talent Aidan O'Brien is bringing to the Breeders' Cup with Lake Victoria and Henri Matisse. They don't do this. Not even Mendelssohn was as good as Henri Matisse is. And when I asked Aidan O'Brien that, he said, well, we're going to run him round a bend on good to firm ground at Delmar because it might knock some of the nonsense out of him. And that is a crucial quote from Aidan O'Brien because it's telling you how good this horse is. Watch his race back at the Curragh in the Vincent O'Brien National Stakes. That's a stallion-making race. It's a Group 1 for juveniles. Win that race, you can be European champion 2-year-old. Stop it at halfway. How far does Henri Matisse win by? He throws it away, Howard. He throws certain victory away. It was his fault. A vastly inferior horse, Scorthy Champ, ends up beating him, throws the race away. Harry Longchamp is a disaster. They take him to America. He wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. He's much the best horse. Comes out this season. Already you can see the benefit of the maturity. Really strong performance in the Leopardstown Guineas trial, the 2000 Guineas trial there. He beats Comanche Brave. Now, Comanche Brave is no good. But that was a smart performance from him. And then he goes to Paris Longchamp and he wins the French 2000 Guineas. Now, this is the first classic of the season in Britain. This is the 2000 Guineas. Ruling Court is in the white cap for William Buick, despite the fact that William Buick is on the number 1 for Godolphin. He's wearing the second string colors because the European champion 2-year-old is over on the other side of the track. That's Shadow of Light, who we're going to see on Friday. And in behind Ruling Court is Field of Gold.
The gray.
So this is the gray horse.
Matisse is in this race as well, you said?
No. Henri Matisse was in France.
Not in this one, I'm sorry. So we're going to watch these two horses. You just felt like Field of Gold was held up too long. I mean, that's how I feel. Like he sort of let he let Ruling Court just get a little bit too far ahead and just made his run a little bit late, was my thought. Do you feel the same way?
I felt the crucial thing, Howard, is Newmarket has a dip. You go up, you go down, you go up. Do not ask a horse to quicken going downhill. It's a difficult thing to do. And that's what he did. Now, he's probably going to tell you that he was told to settle the horse, get him to learn to settle. But look at Buick. Buick has decided, okay, we're going now. I'm on a Justify out of a High Chaparral mare. You're going to have to come and get me. And it's swap the jockeys around, and I think you swap the result around. Now, look, Field of Gold doesn't respond in the way that you would have liked him to, maybe the way Kieran Schumacher thought he was going to. But here comes the sustained gallop. He starts to get there. He's getting there. It's too late. It's over. The race has been won. That lost him his job.
That was a great freeze frame, by the way. I'm proud of that.
Oh, fantastic. Right on the line as well.
Right on the line. How about that? I mean, I've heard you on the podcast, Field of Gold, the gray, who's the favorite, everyone, in this race. Not this race we're watching, the race on Tuesday. It doesn't look like, in this race, it looked like it took him a little time to gather, but apparently, and I don't know this horse the way you do, he's got a wicked turn of foot. So maybe the dip didn't allow him to have that quicker acceleration, or no?
I don't know that he does have a wicked turn of foot. I thought the Craven fell apart.
Okay.
I think that's what people will tell you. I think you're right, Howard. I think the narrative is he's got this wicked turn of foot. He's unbelievable.
Okay.
But if he's so fast, why is John Gosden already talking about going up to 10 furlongs with him?
Got it. So he needs to be a little more forward so that he doesn't have to, so he can sustain that sort of gradual run that he has instead of that quick decision. He's probably not going to be best in behind horses, right? He needs to be in the clear. He's not the kind of athletic type that can get in and out of holes. Would you agree with that?
Do you think the best horse won that race?
I have to watch the gallop out because I'm a big gallop out guy. I mean,
yeah,
I do believe if the jock moves sooner, I think Field will go to 1. It just, again, you know these horses better than I do. I feel like the gray was better that day. Just the run was too late. That's how I feel.
I think it's a bad ride on Field to Go. I think Kieran Schumacher's a lovely guy and a talented rider. I think it's a bad ride, but I think the best horse won.
Okay. But will that horse win on Tuesday? That's the question.
Ruling Court. And here's the thing that's interesting about Ruling Court. William Buick is riding the horse that was, so he was a $2.2 million breeze up purchase. It's a Coolmore pedigree. He's by Justify out of a High Chaparral mare. He's backed as though defeat is out of the question on debut, wins by a wide margin. Stanhope Gardens is in that race. He ends up being placed in a group race and was sent off a dark horse for the Derby the other day. He's then the even money favorite against the Lion in Winter, who made a winning debut for Aidan O'Brien in the Acomb Stakes. That's a race Aidan O'Brien doesn't target, by the way, but he did that year. The Lion in Winter wins. Wimbledon Hawkeye finishes second. I thought that was a bad ride from William Buick, actually, if you watch that race back. They put him away. They don't run him again. They bring him out to Dubai. He's in the sunshine. I happened to be watching the UAE 2000 Guineas. I couldn't believe how good he was. It was an unbelievable performance. Now, he beat trees, but he crushed them.
Yes.
And then William Buick chooses him over the European champion 2-year-old and dual Group 1 winner Shadow of Light, who'd won the Dewhurst, which is the most recognizable trial for the Guineas. He sides with Ruling Court. I think all of that has been lost in the fog of Kieran Schumacher is being fired and what does it mean? I thought it was a really good performance from Ruling Court. Now, the thing I'm nervous about with him is they were running him in the Derby, Howard.
That's
and at
the
the
thing.
last.
Now, explain that to us. Explain that to people who don't know, because the Derby is the big distance 3-year-old race, sort of like our Kentucky Derby on turf to some extent. And the ground was too soft, apparently, although you believe that some of the connections wanted to run. They might regret that they did not run. And now they're running in this race, which is a much shorter distance. I personally don't like anywhere in the world where a horse is meant to go somewhere and they go somewhere else. I'm just not a fan of that in general, especially with a horse that's going to take a lot of money.
Yeah, imagine they were going to run a horse in the Belmont. Imagine they were going to run Sovereignty in the Belmont and pulled him and then ran him in a Grade 1 dirt race over a mile a week and a half later. Would that appeal to you? Maybe not. Now, Sovereignty is such a machine, the best 3-year-old in the world, I would say. Look, I think they had second thoughts about this for a while. I don't think they really were mad about running at the Derby at all because the ground was fine for him. The ground turned afterwards, and they debated it and debated it and debated it. It's 2 years since Charlie Appleby's had a winner at Royal Ascot. That's not on at all. Like this is one of the biggest ownership operations in the world. They're spending fortunes. If Aidan O'Brien had been going through that, there'd be he wouldn't be at Coolmore anymore. That wouldn't be tolerated. No, so they need wins, and I think this is a bold call on their part. That proven stamina, the uphill, that little incline on that round course, that proven stamina is going to help him an awful lot. This is going to be a truly run race. You've got 2 Coolmore horses in there. Officer disappointed in the Irish Guineas the other day. Windlord's going to go forward from the Andrew Balding yard. Now, Oisin Murphy's on board, but he's going to have to ride to instruction, son. You're there to make the pace, and that's what you're going to do. You can be pretty certain that First Wave is going to do the same thing. Henri Matisse will thrive off a strongly run race. So will Field of Gold. The question then is, what does Buick do in Ruling Court? Does he ride midfield? Does he go forward? Does he try and control the race? Because Ruling Court's going to be better going forward over 10 furlongs. This is what makes this race so fascinating. You've got the British, Irish, and French Guineas winners all clashing. When this race was conceived, this was the whole idea. The best of the best of the best all facing off against one another. All of this is to say, I think you're insane if you're taking odds on Field of Gold. I think you're absolutely bonkers. Maybe he wins. Maybe he does. I would be much more interested in playing the box exacta Henri Matisse Ruling Court and Henri Matisse for the win.
Wow. Okay. That's be fascinating. When he talks about, by the way, the Guineas in 2000, it's basically, for those of you that in the United States watching and not familiar, it's basically like the Florida Derby winner facing the Santa Anita Derby winner. It's basically, if you took parts of the United States and broke them up as if they were countries, it's like the very best prep horses going against each other in the Kentucky Derby. That's basically what it is. So, these are the best, the horses that won their regional or their country's lead prep into this race. I mean, so into the Derby, and then therefore going forward into this race. It's just spectacular. Let's get into Tuesday. The first four very quickly. We'll focus on the Group 1. Day 2 starts off with, let me get it up here.
With the Queen Mary.
The Queen Mary. Yep, let me get that up right now with a very interesting American entrant here. And again, I'm not going to, blow smoke up your butt here, Emmet, so to speak. I'm not going to tell you a U.S. horse is good when they're not, because I don't want to do that to you, me, the listeners, anyone else. Zelena right now, who is the 29 horse, who I actually watched that replay. She was wow. I mean, it's a female, right? She was extremely. She was really good in that debut. I know it's just a debut race, but boy, she won that just in hand without even asking. This Lenny Lou is very good. Do not sleep on Lenny Lou. There was an American horse who last year, I can't remember the name, who almost won. Was it this race? Finished a very close second on the lead, a very fast horse for lower connections. This is Bean Cohn, who is a trainer that some overseas people might know, of course, because he's won the Arc, for God's sakes. He's from France originally. Lenny Lou is very quick, Emmet, and she's already had 2 runs. She won a Gulfstream very easily. This is a talented 2-year-old filly. What are your quick thoughts on this race?
Well, Zelena was very impressive on her debut. She won the same race that the winner of this race came from a year ago. Carl Burke is a phenomenal trainer, and he's very, very good with his juveniles. And you could not help but see how excited he was about this horse's prospects coming to Ascot. Same for James Doyle. They were very, very bullish about her on the back of what she had done first time up. I think if you talk to the Times boys, they'll tell you no, that she doesn't deserve to be this short a price, and they will side with the US Raider. Really? And that's what I was told. Now, I got a WhatsApp today from somebody who I really, really respect, and he was telling me, look, it's the same old story with Royal Ascot and the Americans, but this is the guy who told me Crimson Advocate can't get beaten, get stuck in. Fella who actually back in the day was telling me about Lady Aurelia and Acapulco. He hasn't always struck gold. He's all over this, Lenny Lou, and it's the kind of stuff that once I'm told this is enough for me. Thanks very much.
Wow. She's good. She's good.
Yeah.
She doesn't need the lead either, Emmet. She's tractable. Now I don't know what post did she get. We don't know that yet, right? Or we do?
No, we're not going to know until tomorrow morning at about 10 or 11 a.m. But what I wanted to ask you,
I prefer a higher draw, but she can track in behind. When she won at Gulfstream, I know that this is a much tougher field in theory, but when she won at Gulfstream, she was very tractable in behind and just blew by them in the stretch. So I don't think Lenny Lou needs the lead for those people that are interested in this race. Go ahead.
How would she compare to Crimson Advocate?
I think she's more highly regarded than Crimson Advocate. Crimson Advocate was she was 30-1 last year, or
she was big price. Yeah.
Was it last year or 2 years ago? I'm trying.
2 years ago.
Yeah, big price, roughy, right? This horse can take some money. Crimson Advocate didn't really go on with it very much in her career.
She's back. She's over here now, winning over a mile.
Oh, she is. I'm sorry. Okay, I apologize. The host fail on my part. I think Lenny Lou is more highly regarded on it.
Yeah. So, like, she showed a lightning quick turn of foot on ground that she's going to get here. Like, she's going to get fast ground.
Yes.
So, and Chris is saying she's better. Look, I have mad respect for Carl Burke. Huge respect for him. I'm going to talk to you about a horse of his on Friday. This is crazy short, 7-4. This doesn't make any sense at all about Zelena. Like, the time doesn't stack up. Even her RPR doesn't stack up. Like, her Racing Post rating is 89. True Love.
But not only that, she just went to the lead. No one challenged her. She didn't have to go inside, outside holes.
Exactly.
It was like a training run. I mean, she was really good, but who'd she face? I mean, I watched the race. It was impressive, but it's the kind of horse you're supposed to take on. Who would you like to take on Zelena other than Lenny Lou?
Lenny Lou is the horse I'm going to back, but I need to talk myself. I think I'm going to have to back 2 horses in this race, and I really hate doing that. One of them is going to be my colleague's brother, Michael Bell. Rupert Bell is the commentator for us for TalkSport, and his brother Michael Bell is set for a big, big week. Spicy Marg won a novice race at Newmarket over 5 furlongs. Winning a novice race at Newmarket It's not an easy thing to do. It's like trying to win a maiden or a novice in Ireland at the Curragh. She beats a Godolphin filly by 2.5 lengths. Now, the Godolphin filly she beat, I think, is a little bit of a soft L finisher. There's close personal friend Kieran Schumacher is going to be on board. Kieran's a good jockey, and this is going to be a great opportunity for him. That was a really, really good performance. The talk going into that race at Newmarket on Guineas weekend was she had been burning up the gallops at Newmarket. There was a lot of people really interested in her. She just sort of kind of went unnoticed. They had her entered for a race in the meantime. The plan has always been come here on the back of the one run. She's very, very fast. She should not be 12-1.
Okay, there you go. So very interested in spicy mark for Kieran Schumacher. Again, we're talking about the Wednesday races, day 2 right now. We're just going to be on with Emmet for about another 15 minutes or so. Let's go ahead and bring up the second race of the day on Wednesday, and that is the Queen Vase. This is a Group 2 for 3-year-olds. Here's the field. Quick thoughts on the second race on Wednesday.
Yeah, this could all sound really stupid if Ryan Moore chooses to ride Scandinavia over Shackleton, but I think he's going to ride Shackleton, and I think Shackleton will win. Aidan O'Brien's got a good record in this race. This horse doesn't have the profile of Illinois. Last season, Illinois came into it on the back of finishing second to Ambiente Friendly, who had been second to only City of Troy in the Derby. To be fair, Ambiente Friendly, by the way, runs on Tuesday and could be a big price, dropping back down to listed company over 10 furlongs in a big field. I think he is a big price, actually. You should be siding with him. But Shackleton is a proven dour stayer. He's a bit of a boat. He got beaten first time up on his comeback run at the Curragh over 10 furlongs. Trip was too short for him. Aidan's horses all improving for a run. He drifted in the betting pretty alarmingly that day. I think he's just going to win this race. The one that I would be afraid of is the Rafe Beckett horse, Amalok. He's unbeaten in 4 starts. He's a gelding, so his options are going to be limited towards the season. He can't run the St. Ledger, for example. You can run geldings in those races. We're probably going to have to look at that at some point, but we're not allowed to run them in our classics. But irrespective of, I think Shackleton will have the class and he should go and win.
Just to let you, Chris Couples, an excellent handicapper here who works for another network in the money. They do a great job. So he knows what he's talking about. Just to let you know, for perspective, I was not a supporter of Crimson Advocate, not saying I'm backing Lenny Lou, but she does have another gear that Crimson Advocate never had. There you go. So just food for thought for you, Emmet. So there you go. A lot of love for Lenny Lou out here. Let's go on to, we're going to talk about 2 more races and then let Emmet discuss whatever else he'd like to end the show. This is the 340s, the third race on Wednesday. It's the Duke of Cambridge for fillies and mares. This is a nice Group 2. Cinderella's Dream is a horse that we know very well here in the state. She won nicely at Saratoga. Slightly disappointing in the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf, which I thought was actually quite a weak running. She has come back, if I recall, and won she won in Dubai. She finished second in Dubai and then won in Europe since. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, the Crisford horse, Schwazia, who's gone over to America a few times. Yeah. She was second to her in Maidan. And then she beat last year's 1,000 Guineas winner El Malka at Newmarket over 9 furlongs and good to firm ground in a Group 2. That was a really good
advocate. Sorry, I just saw. There you go.
Yeah, there she is. Oh, there she is. Yeah, I actually forgot she was in this race. Completely forgotten that. Yeah, so she started back over a mile on the all-weather. She finished second, and then she's won the last day in listed company. So she's in good heart. She's doing well. She'll probably be outclassed in this race. Cue her going and winning by 5 lengths now. But look, Cinderella's Dream deserves to be favored. Do you want to back her at 7-4, 5-2? I'm not so sure. I think the betting is wrong for this. I think Fallen Angel should be favored. She was a little bit underwhelming in the eyes of some in the Lock-Inch Stakes, but that was the Lock-Inch. The horses that finished in front of her are the top 4 in the betting for the Queen Anne. Let's see how that form works out. But look at her form from 2 seasons ago. She was a Group 1 winner at the Curragh in the Moyglaire Stakes, and she won that fair and square. At the Curragh again last season, she comes out and she wins the Irish 1,000 Guineas. Verspatilio has turned out to be a very, very good horse. She goes back to Ireland for the Irish Champions weekend. She runs second to Porta Fortuna in the Matron. I think Porta Fortuna would have won the Queen Anne had she stayed fit. Even her run over 10 furlongs of very soft ground at Paris Longchamp, she's only beaten a length and 3/4 for 4th behind Friendly Soul. And Carl Burke was adamant when I spoke to him on the Friday, which is the day before the Lock-Inch. She badly needs this run. She desperately needs the run. She will improve immensely from it. The plan is Royal Ascot. Here we are, 4-1, Fallen Angel, get on.
Now, here's a good question. I'm sure you talk about this on your show quite a bit. When they run the Queen Anne, let's say that Lock-Inch form does not end up being very good in the Queen Anne, and there's an upset. Does that downgrade Fallen Angel, or you discount that?
Because he was so adamant she was going to need the run, I will discount it. But I'll also be a hypocrite and say, if they finish first, second, third, and fourth, I'll be like, oh, and that just boosts the form of Fallen Angel, of course, Howard.
Right. So, I mean, so people should watch. Obviously, they're going to watch the Queen Anne. You can make your own decisions on what you'd like to do with Fallen Angel. You anticipate, just to reiterate, you anticipate the market being different than what we see on the screen right now. You think Fallen Angel, well, maybe won't be the favorite, but in your opinion, should be the favorite. Is that correct?
Well, I think she should be because she escapes the penalty. Where Cinderella's Dream is carrying 9 stone 5, Fallen Angel is carrying 9 stone 2. She's only a pound inferior on official ratings. So on weights, she comes out the best horse. So she really should win on that alone. And I think her form is superior. Like the defeat of El Malka's. How did El Malka win the 1,000 guineas? How? Like how the hell did that horse win the 1,000 guineas? It's unbelievable. She's never backed it up ever. Fallen Angel is a proper Group 1 performer, and I think she'll show it in this race.
All right, let's go on to the last Group 1 that we're going to talk about in detail. And this is a race I know you're looking forward to. I've listened to a bunch of podcasts about this race, and I'm going to be deep diving, for tipping purposes, the next day and a half. This is Los Angeles versus Anmat versus many others. The Prince of Wales. It's for 4-year-olds and up. It's basically, ladies and gentlemen, it would be like our Met Mile. It's basically the best older horses running a mile. Of course, it's on turf. Or this is a mile and it's a mile and eighth. Sorry,
10 furlongs. Yeah,
10 for mile and eighth. Really nice race. Let me go and show the field here. I know you're excited. Los Angeles is a very talented horse who likes to be up front. You have a lot of horses that sort of like to be held up, you'd like to say, but really talented, like Anmat. I'll show that replay, by the way, of the Tattersall's Group 1 earlier this year that they're coming out of. I thought White Birch did not get a very good run. A cool gray horse. Odman's son is in this race. Map of Stars. I know Factor Cheval is a horse that some people here in the States might know. This is the doozy. This is a real nice Group 1 on Wednesday.
Yeah, cracking race. There's a couple of high-profile non-runners, but that doesn't matter. You've still got a brilliant race here. Slight doubt about Amnat's participation. He's probably going to run, but if it's really, really fast ground, really fast, there's a chance they'll pull him. He does have winning form on good to firm ground, but that was in a Group 3. You're now into Group 1 company. He's a 7-year-old. He's not getting any younger, so Owen Burrows wants to look after him. So that's just a small chance. On the face of it, he's a 40-1 winner of the Champion Stakes. He's a fluke winner. How's he done it? Actually, if you watch that race back, and Clandagan, by the way, again, Clandagan blows it at the start, is then asked to come up the rail by his jockey on the day. It's like, what are you doing, man? It's just the whole thing was a nightmare. But actually, watch the race back. Anmat would have been a really unlucky loser had he not got up. He traveled really powerfully through that race. He's finished off very, very strongly. His next race is the Curragh for Irish Guineas weekend in the Tattersall's Gold Cup. Los Angeles had the benefit of race fitness. Anmat comes to beat him. Are you going to show this race, Howard?
Yes, I am. Whenever I'm looking to the right, that means I'm pulling up the race.
Okay, so. You're okay. You're okay. Well, I'll say.
How did Anmat lose this race? I mean, this horse ranged up. I'm showing it right now. Ranged up like a good thing, and just Los Angeles had more, just flattened out. Here's Los Angeles right here. Here's Anmat in the blue and white, and here's White Birch the gray. Go ahead.
Look at Jim Crowley's body language. He's laughing at Ryan Moore. It's just like, yeah, here we go, baby. Easy money, easy. Oh no. As Ryan Moore manages to galvanize and pull out more on Los Angeles. And look, there's some very, very shrewd people who I have an immense amount of respect for. Look, even the pace, look at the positioning of Ryan Moore on Los Angeles. He's up on the front end, pressing the lead as his stable companion Continuous, who had blown the start, but then got to the front end, starts to fade back. Kalpana was very unlucky in running as well. She's going to go for the Hardwick Stakes on the Saturday. She'll take an awful lot of beating in that race, although she'll be rematching with our favorite horse, Rebels Romance. But look at
Anmat's a winner. It's over.
Yeah, he's cruising.
What a run by Los Angeles. Wow.
A superb effort from Los Angeles, superb effort from Ryan Moore, brilliant effort, though, from Anmat, who will surely come on for that run. You highlighted White Birch in behind as well. He's very unlucky with how this race panned out, too.
Yeah.
Colin Keane got a few pelters for this ride. I'm not sure there was anything he could do differently, aside from somehow force his way through journalism in the Preakness style, not to bring up some controversies.
Yeah, right there. It just gets in tight and he got shuffled back. And this kind of right there, he loses like about a length and a half. And this kind of race, that just can't happen if you like White Birch.
No, and he was bidding for back-to-back wins in this race. He's a proper Group 1 performer. He's eligible to improve and step forward from that run. Again, he might be a slightly doubtful participant if it's proper good to firm ground. All of this is to say, Howard Kravitz, Anmat did travel really well in that race. And he did look like he was going to win, and I'm sure he's going to improve. And Burrows is making all the right noises about how he's going to be a much better horse in this race. Do you honestly think that's the best Los Angeles is? Haven't we been down this road before?
Well, I know you. I know the answer to that question because I listened to you, sir, here in the States. I know you love Los Angeles in this race. I think you think he's got more in the tank, and they're pointing to this race. I will say though that was a mile and 5/16, and the run on Wednesday is shorter, so that I don't know if you feel that helps Anmat or not, but I know you feel that Los Angeles just is sitting on a blinder on Wednesday.
I think what you've seen from Los Angeles so far is what they've needed you to see. It wouldn't have mattered if he got beaten first time up. If he got beaten first time up, they wouldn't have cared. He doesn't have an unbeaten record to protect. Winning a Group 2, who cares? That doesn't matter to Coolmore. What matters to them is winning Group 1s. And that Tattersalls Gold Cup matters. This race matters. Royal Ascot matters more than anything. Royal Ascot, the Arc, Irish Champions Weekend, and the Breeders' Cup. This is what the Coolmore operation are all about, because the eyes of we're literally on an American horse racing podcast talking about a British race meeting. This is what it's all about for Coolmore. They're an international bloodstock operation. This guy's got the City of Troy form to carry forward from last year. This is a serious performer. When I asked Aidan O'Brien on Friday, have we seen the best of this horse? He said, absolutely not. Now, of course, he's going to say all of that. Of course, he's going to say all the big things. Just like John Gostin's going to tell you, Field of Gold is Kingman 2.0. It's all about the bloodstock world, baby. This
he
is
also
a serious
said he loves
horse.
City of Troy in the Breeders' Cup Classic, too.
Anyway, moving swiftly along.
We still love you, Ian. We still want you back on the show, my friend.
That's a hero. That's an absolute hero. But this is Ryan Moore and Aidan O'Brien at Royal Ascot. They don't miss. They don't miss in this race. Yeah. Auguste Rodin won this a year ago, Irish Derby winner. Los Angeles is coming into this race. I'm pretty certain that when this horse ran in the Champion Stakes, so I think a lot of people are going to look at his run. October 19th, he's thrashed by Anmat. That means he's got no chance. Howard, ignore that. Ignore it. Champion Stakes matters not a jot to Coolmore. It's always an afterthought. And the only reason he ran in that was because they weren't going to take him to the Breeders' Cup because they thought they could win it with Luxembourg. So they weren't going to go to
that. There's a lot of horses that, as you like to say, want to be held up in this race, and Los Angeles could be loose on the lead. Continuous is not going in this race, correct?
Continuous is going to go, I think. They're going to. Poor old Continuous has been deployed as a pacemaker. He's a classic winner back in the day, but that's what he is these days. He might go to lead. Now, if he doesn't line up, don't worry about that because I think they'll just control it from the front end anyway. You are slightly right about this being a slightly shorter distance than the Tattersalls Gold Cup, but it's the nature of the track. That round course with that stiff uphill climb, that's going to be ideal for Los Angeles. It's going to be perfect for him. And I'm sorry, Anmat is rated 123 and he's a 7-year-old. You're never going to convince me that a 7-year-old is sitting on this massive heater of a run where he's going to come through massively from the Tattersalls Gold Cup against a 4-year-old Irish Derby winner who's completely unexposed for Aidan O'Brien. Los Angeles wins this race. Don't complicate your mind. He wins.
I'm sorry. I've heard that talked a lot on different European podcasts. Well, Anmat's going to improve. It's his second run. He's 7, man. Like, okay, fine, he's going to improve, but how much upside does he really have? Los Angeles could run off the screen. I mean, I when it's a 7-year-old versus a 4-year-old, I almost always go with the younger progressive 4-year-old, even if it's just some kind of mate in any situation, even if it's just like a class 4 race in Australia, whatever. I mean, any situation, I'm going to go with the 4-year-old over the 7-year-old most likely. Emmet, we really appreciate having on. We're coming up about an hour 20. I want to leave the last 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever you'd like. Feel free. I have no time restriction here. Any other races? I'm not going to be able to show. Well, I'll try to show the fields if I can throughout the races, but any other races, I know there's a lot of them, but any either roughies, long shots, or best bets, like horses you just think can't lose, that even if they're at 2s or 3s or whatever, or other Group 1s. I know Illinois, who I'm from Illinois, but the horse Illinois is favored in the distance race on Thursday, the Gold Cup. Any other races you'd like to discuss the rest of the week, Emmet? The floor is yours. I'll try to bring up them on the screen as much as possible.
I'll do a spoiler now and just go straight to the Hunt Cup. There's a weird thing.
Is that?
The Hunt Cup is on Thursday. It's the big handicap over a mile. Is it not the Thursday or is it the Wednesday? Apologies. Sorry, it's the Wednesday. What am I talking about? I've lost my mind. Completely lost my marbles. It's the 5 o'clock on the Wednesday.
Okay.
It's the Hunt Cup. We don't have a draw yet. The draw can be very interesting. There's 2 horses that I'd like to highlight for this race. One is Skakuza, who was beaten by Mickley in the Britannia Stakes a year ago. for Ed Dunlop. I was at the Curragh when he came over to Ireland. Ed Dunlop doesn't really send runners to Ireland anymore. Ryan Moore came in for the ride. He was a good winner, very, very good winner. He was narrowly beaten by Mickley last year. That horse went to Hong Kong. He's interesting. The horse I'm more interested in, though, is a horse called Fox Legacy. He needs one more to come out. That's almost certainly going to happen for him to get in. He's got a mark of 96. But what's interesting about him is he's ex-Sir Michael Stout. Now, Sir Michael Stout was a legendary trainer. He achieved incredible things. I don't know what was going on with him last year, man. But all of his horses that have transferred to other trainers, they have all improved significantly for the switch and stable. And this is the next one who can do it, Fox Legacy. Oisin Murphy's already been jocked up to ride for Andrew Balding, whose horses have been in tremendous form all season. There's a valuable race in this fella, and I think it's going to be this race. We're getting
Luke
20s.
Vega, the same sire as Carl Spackler, by the way.
Yes, and he's out of the tail of the cat.
Who was the first horse you mentioned? Who was the first horse you mentioned?
Skakuza, number 9, Skukuza.
Just so people can watch back and listen back to the show, and there you go.
Yeah, I would imagine he won at the Curragh the other day. The ground was pretty awful towards the end. He's ground versatile. He's a good horse. He's the saver. I'm much more interested in Fox Legacy for Andrew Balding. I think he's going to go very, very close in that race. Again, those extra Michael Stout horses just are all improving. There's a horse called Never So Brave who's going to run in a handicap. Again, extra Michael Stout horse. Keep a very close eye on him. The Gold Cup is the feature race of the entire week, or at least it should be. It's the oldest Group 1 there at the entire meeting. The race meeting was basically centered around this back in olden times. And unfortunately, there's no more Kyprios around, but don't worry. Aidan O'Brien's got a number of horses that can just step into the line. It could have been Jan Bruegel. It's going to be Illinois. Illinois, which is where Howard is from, has got some top-class form to his name. Second, he won the Queen's Vase at Royal Ascot a year ago, first of all. He was then second in the Grand Prix de Paris to Sosi, who's won 2 Group 1s this season. Second to Los Angeles in the Great Voltigeur Stakes. An Irish Derby winner who's gone on, obviously, to win a Group 1 already this season, and I think will win the Prince of Wales. Then second in the St. Leger to Jan Bruegel, who's come out and won the Coronation Cup this season. He goes, after the long, hard season, goes to Paris Longchamp on Arc Weekend, runs on soft ground over a mile 7, and wins as an odds-on favourite. And he's come out at Chester and won again as well. He will stay. He will win. He's one of the bankers of the meeting, Illinois. I'm a big, big fan of him. And it's just a matter of
how low a price would you take on Illinois? Would you take odds on? Would you take
evens?
Money?
I'd take evens. Yeah.
And Trollman ran in Dubai, correct? Nice horse.
Yeah, Trollman's a good horse. Trollman's going to be the wise guy horse. Oh, he's down to 11-4. That's interesting. Trollman's going to be the wise guy horse for this race because he was second to Kyprios in this a year ago. He's a proven stare, but again, he's a 7-year-old. He's a bit of a quirk bag as well. He's not getting any better, and I think he's going to be a little bit vulnerable.
I do want to say, I don't know if you agree with this, but the older horses going the 2 miles, I'm less concerned about them because the older horses seem to do better sometimes going longer, and they don't need to be as precocious as the younger horses that are going, for example, like 9 or 10 furlongs. Do you agree with that? Like, I'm less concerned about older horses in these races than I would be in shorter distance races, in my opinion. Yeah,
I would agree with that. The only thing I'd say is that I think both Trollerman and Sweet William are just a little bit quirky. They have something against them. And Candelari, who, fair play to Laura Joy. Laura Joy put this horse up at 25-1 on the Final Furlong podcast. He's now the 7-2 second favourite. I just wonder if he's going to like good to firm ground, which is almost certainly what he's going to end up with. I'd be slightly concerned about him in that regard. But hey, if you follow Laura in, you're in a great spot already. A couple of other horses to mention for you. This is almost an Aidan O'Brien fan club show now at this point as well. But I again did that interview with Aidan O'Brien on Friday, and he dropped a bit of a bombshell. So Zaragana is going to go for the Coronation Stakes. She's the French 1,000 Guineas winner, controversially beaten by She's Perfect, gets the race in the steward's room. She should have, by the way. It was interference was caused. For all that we can like the owner of that horse and the trainer. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow, you're one of the few Euro punters and experts that actually agree with that decision. I agree with it also, by the way. But yeah,
Zaragana was the best horse in that race. She was badly interfered with. The horse that was really interfered with, though, was Exactly. She was the one who was mullered completely.
Yes.
And probably would have won had it not been for that. So
she
imagine
was the one that was like 3 from the outside, as opposed to the one that was furthest from the outside. Correct?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, she's the one who I know properly gets.
You have no idea what we're talking about, but you and I know what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's the French 1,000 Guineas.
People can watch it.
Yeah, it's not called that. It's called the Poule d'ici to Poulish Group 1. I've butchered that pronunciation, but let's go with it. Let's go with it. you're the teacher, so if you're going to accept that, then happy days. That's all right.
Sure.
So I was actually thinking when we did the Group 1 preview on the Final Furlong podcast last week, this exactly is an each way bet to nothing. She has to be win, place, and show here. She can't be out of the first three, and she's got nothing to find with Zaragana on juvenile form from Paris Longchamp last season and the Group 1 on Arc Day, and the run of the French 1,000 Guineas. So imagine my surprise when Aidan O'Brien tells me, yeah, we were going to run January in the French Oaks, but Ryan really wants to ride her in the Coronation Stakes. And she has got a Royal Ascot pedigree. She's a daughter of Kingman, isn't that right? Daughter of Kingman out of I Can Fly, who was placed in a QE2 and was a really, really really good filly. Not quite elite Group 1, but very, very talented filly for Aidan O'Brien. Kingman was obviously Kingman. You look back at her juvenile form, she buries Beckman, who's come out and won a decent race this year for Ger Lines. She gets within a length and a half of Desert Flower, who goes on to win the Fillies Mile and wins the 1,000 Guineas, places in the Oaks. She's behind Desert Flower in the Fillies Mile. Aidan O'Brien is adamant, didn't run a race that day. You can ignore that, and you can completely ignore her seasonal comeback in the Irish 1,000 Guineas, which was a messy race. Ryan wasn't on her. He was on Lake Victoria, the GOAT, and she will improve significantly for that race. She's 16-1 on this side of the pond. She may not beat Zaragana, but she won't be far away.
Wow. Very, very interesting. We'll have to look out for that horse. Anyone else? Why don't you give us one more roughie or one more horse you really like at a lower price the rest of the week on it? Or a race that you want to mention that we should look at?
There's two other ones I'll mention very quickly. The Hardwick Stakes, we don't even have entries for it yet, but our old favorite Rebels Romance is going to run. Now, the problem with Rebels Romance is he's 7, and they've stepped him up to a mile 6, which means they were starting to think they dropped him in class to a Group 2 and ran him over a mile 6. Now, he won, but he only just about won. And William Buick said afterwards, we should not have done that.
When would that race be, Emmett? What day would that be?
He's going to run over a mile 4 in the Group 2 Hardwick Stakes. The problem is, Howard, he's going to take on Kalpana. And I think Kalpana is going to murder him.
That's a problem.
I think Kalpana is going to possibly win the Arc this year. She's a really special filly.
Really?
They could have gone for the Group 1 Pretty Polly. They're going to run her in the Group 2 here. The reasoning from Andrew Balding is it's Royal Ascot. We want to win at Royal Ascot. I think she'll win. And the other race then to mention is the Queen Elizabeth II Stakes. Now, I was told something today that would make me a little bit concerned, but I'm going to put my faith in that man again, Aidan O'Brien, with a horse called Storm Boy. And here's the reason why. 4 times, Aidan O'Brien has won Group 1s at Royal Ascot with ex-Australian horses. Haradison in the Queen Anne. So You Think of the Prince of Wales Stakes. Admittedly, it took a year, but he did win it the second time of asking. Most significantly, Star Spangled Banner in what is now the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes and Merchant Navy. Both of them won this race on their second start for Aidan O'Brien. Star Spangled Banner was beaten about 3.5 lengths on his debut at York, then came forward to win this race. Merchant Navy won the Greenland Stakes, then won this. Storm Boy made his debut in the Greenland Stakes, gets beaten straight after the race. Aidan O'Brien says, yeah, he hasn't even done a gallop. We've done nothing with this horse. He's going to take a big step forward. He's a son of Justify. I think he will take an awful lot of beating in that race. They're all telling you it's going to be the Japanese horse who's got form with Koying Rising. Maybe. I'm going to put my blind faith in Aidan O'Brien to repeat that dose and win again.
And just to remind American handicappers, Ascot's been around for hundreds of years. What trainer has the most wins in the history of Ascot Racecourse?
What a great question. 314 years Royal Ascot is old, and only one man has trained 91 winners, Aidan O'Brien, and he's barely 50.
I mean, scary good. Emmet, we love having you on, man. I mean, your knowledge is just amazing. You've helped everyone on the show. Even if none of those horses won, you've given everyone a lot of knowledge. Look, Ascot's tough, ladies and gentlemen. There's big fields. Some of these handicap races at 25, 30, even a lot of the races we went over are extremely competitive, 10 to 12 horse field. It's difficult. Bet smartly, bet with your head, not with your heart. Bet the races you feel most comfortable with. They're all going to be on TV here in the States on different networks. And most importantly, Emmet, please watch live. I know you'll be busy, and we appreciate your time tonight for the preview. But myself and Davey Lane live on Tuesday starting at 9 a.m. Eastern here in the States. We're going to be doing about the first 3 or 4 races on Tuesday with Davey Lane, excellent punter, great analysis, tremendous personality. A lot of fun. Emmet, where can people find you, especially the American handicappers and horse players who are not familiar with your podcast?
Or come on over to the Final Furlong podcast on YouTube. You can subscribe for free there. We've just done our day 1 preview, the Group 1 previews. The Aidan O'Brien special is a podcast only podcasts. You can get that. Just type in Final Furlong podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the good podcast apps, and some rubbish ones as well. There's a Juveniles to Follow podcast too with Laura Joy and Archie Brooks, two of the best when it comes to bloodstock and Juveniles to Follow. They're really, really mustard. So they break down the horses to follow in the juvenile division, and we're doing our daily previews. We've done day 1, day 2, and day 3 come out tomorrow evening, live on TalkSport and TalkSport 2 all week as well. But Final Furlong podcast is where you can be finding me. And Howard, I've really enjoyed this. It's always a blast coming on with you. I've had a lot of fun with Rian and Charlie. I know we were supposed to do a show a while ago, and the timings were a nightmare here, but I thoroughly enjoyed this show. Your show is very similar to mine. We're at our very heart. We're massive horse racing fans, and thankfully we're supported by a great audience on your side and on my side, and really enjoy coming on with you.
Well, the last thing I want to say, and Emmet, it's been an absolute pleasure. Emmet gave our younger guys, Charlie, Ryan, Jackson, an incredible amount of time just because he loved horse racing off air. They're big fans of yours, Emmet. It just shows that your passion for horse racing is tremendous, and I love anyone. I don't care if they're 80 years old or 8 years old. If they love horse racing, they are a friend of mine. So, for my good friend and host of the Final Furlong podcast, Emmet Kenny, this has been your host, Howard Kravitz, episode 414, Royal Ascot preview for the first 2 days. Plus, there's only one more thing to say. Crush your bets at Royal Ascot this week. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.